So, I guess more on recovery. It was really easy for me. I was just going off on the abuse and all that, and that's like what society does, or the news or whatever. Is they show all the after effects of the abuse. You know, and I think it's karma. It's all karma. I'm not a religious man. I think Buddhism is probably the closest to the truth of what I can see in life going on. And I studied to deal with my sexual abuse. I was desperate. I didn't want to commit suicide. I didn't want to die. And I was trying every darn religious thing I was looking every direction, every way I could get help, anything I could do to stay alive. I mean, I was an open door, open book. I wanted help, and I was looking everywhere. So I've tried every religion and all that. And I'm not a religious man. I mean, I think the Buddhist philosophy is about the closest to the karma stuff and all that. I could be a religious man. I mean, if you paid me probably a couple $1,000,000 a year, I could be a religious man. But do you think I'm going to pay you for your religious stuff? Fuck no. No fucking way in hell. Especially when you promote violence and killing each other. That isn't a good seller to me. Now, we all know that Buddhists did that too, or it's not really popularized, but Buddhists have done that too in different countries. And to be honest, I don't believe in God. You'd have to pay me a lot of money to get me to believe in God. Because the thing that was penetrating me when I was 3 years old was not a human at all. So that's some being that came from a different planet that was in a human body. I mean, yeah. I guess I have trouble. You get molested when you're 3 years old. You know, you don't believe in a God, or maybe some do, but I don't. But I do believe in karma. And see, that's where once you get into studying your abuse and therapy and all that, you look in your own life and you can see how your abuse, everything that's happened to you so far in your life, is totally controlling who you are. So you have to look in the mirror. You have to look at the cause of why all that nasty karma is happening, be it the drug addiction or whatever, or alcoholism, or overspending, or over shopping, or overeating, or whatever your thing is. You know, you have to look at the cause of why that's starting, and that's the childhood or whatever. Now, see, our society, or the U.S., or the media, they make money off of the shootings and the ratings. All that. I mean, I know a guy. I know some people, but I know one guy in particular that likes war. He makes money off of war. And he's not in the military, he's a journalist. He actually was upset because he got less work because we didn't have any wars going on right now. He was very upset about that. He loves war because he makes money off it. So that's it. It's all about the money, survival instinct. But anyways, other people profit off of the karma and all that. But it's like the news will show clips of the war or the shooting and all that, and the courts and all that. They'll address the action, but they won't address the cause. So this guy went like this, like a couple of these people that walk into a school and they shoot like 40 kids or whatever, 30 kids or 20 kids or whatever, and the news shows all that, and then they tell you the guy had a pretty normal childhood and all this stuff or whatever, They don't tell you the real motive. But see, I've been in recovery for a long time, and I know what the motive is. I mean, they were either sexually abused or they were on drugs. It's as simple as that. Some people are schizophrenics and they have different personalities and all that, but they're either repeating the karma or the pattern that happened to them, or drugs pretty much influenced their behavior in doing it. It was no devil spirit or anything like that. I mean, the thing that molested me, it was probably molested too before, but it didn't have a conscience. I mean, I think some people just don't have a conscience. They're like total psychopaths. They have no guilt at all. Or a lot of people are sociopaths or whatever, schizophrenic multiple personalities. I mean, those do exist. It does exist from what I can see in my life on the planet and everything. But being in recovery, I'd say probably 98% of the karma, other than those genetic factors, is from societies, from religions, from governments, from politicians that poison people's brains about stuff. Like, it's funny to watch each politician. They're all fucking corrupt. Pick the country. All governments are corrupt. Pick the country. You know, the dysfunction. I mean, if you watch a presidential election from the campaign to president, I mean, they're just tell the demographics. They tell each state, in the U.S. in particular, they just tell everybody what they want to hear. That's all they do. And they never keep their promises. And it'll always be that way. That's just the karma of the world. But, and, you know, it's all just the abuse and dysfunction repeating itself. You know, so you look at the newspaper clipping of the guy that shot the people and the kids in the school, you know, but they don't tell you that he was doped up on drugs. And they don't tell you that guns shouldn't be allowed for anybody to just pick up anywhere. They don't tell you that. I mean, they'll talk about the fucking shooting of the kids in the school. And they'll talk a little bit about the constitutional amendment, which should be re-amended. They'll cut your free speech. Like, see how many hits my videos on sexual abuse and karma and all that. See how many hits they get. They won't get shit. I'm doing this for me. I don't care how many people look at it. But I mean, all that violence and all that stuff, if you look at most of the stuff that does the best in the media, is all the violent crap. So it's the basic pattern repeating itself. People see all the violence, and then they commit all the violence, and they see all the violence, and they commit all the violence. They see all the violence, they commit all the violence. And I've done tons of shows on this stuff, but they never learn. People will never learn. I will never learn. I guess we're stubborn with our brainwashing, but so they don't show the kids. They don't show the gun being the problem at all. It's the person that shot the kids. It wasn't the gun. Well, I think bullets came out of the gun and actually did kill the kids. I think if the gun wasn't there, he wouldn't have been able to kill 50 kids. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So the news doesn't look at that. And then the news looks at how, I mean, let's face it, if your government wants to destroy you and commit suicide, they're going to do it, in genocide, which they are doing. Most people don't know how, but if you look at things really, really closely, they're committing genocide on you big time. But if, you know, it's just a karma again, and the people committing genocide are having genocide committed to him themselves, so they're committing suicide while they're committing genocide. I mean, and people that do commit genocide, like those kids in the school, commit suicide. So the people that are actually committing the genocide commit suicide, it's a vicious, nasty circle. Yeah. So the average person shouldn't have a gun, because human beings lie, they're irrational, they have bad karma, childhoods that they haven't worked through. And they should not have a gun, period. And point in case is, if the government wants to genocide you, which they're already doing, you're already being genocided, and a gun isn't going to help you. Look at history. It's never stopped the government. I mean, you might overthrow the current government in a coup or something like that, but the government now is way too strong and powerful, and they have nukes and all that stuff. So those little toy guns you have, or your militia or whatever, aren't going to do a fucking bit of good, except for killing innocent kids. That's the only good that's going to do. And it's like, oh, you have to go through all these tests to get a driver's license, you know, all these freaking exams and all that, and they examine your eyes and all that. Do you have to do that for a gun license? Hell no. You know. It's like, well, maybe if everybody has guns, maybe we should have nuclear weapons. Everybody should have their own little nuclear weapon. And every country wants to have that too. We should all have nuclear weapons because maybe our government won't be able to defend us against the other country, and we don't trust that they have the capabilities. So aside from just having a gun, but anyways, most people die from their own gun, a lot of them, and they're really, really dangerous. I mean, I could go off on that, but I'm talking mainly about the karma. So we're at that phase. Okay, so now behind the gun, the individual, he was molested, he was abused, or he had a grudge. He worked for the post office for 20 years or whatever, and there's going to be a lot more of that, let me tell you. Or someone did him wrong and he was seeking revenge, whatever. But it was all karma, and most of it out of abuse and drug addiction, or I should say 98% of it, yeah. Because if someone's truly like a multiple personality, or yeah, there's only a few people that are high functioning people that can do stuff like that. So, yeah. Anyway, so what I'm getting to at is they show the karma, but they don't show the root of the karma. And if they showed the root of the karma, then they could address the karma and deal with it. See, that is where the denial is, with the sexual abuse, the alcoholism, and all that. If they can't address the root of the, the denial, if they can't address the root of the problem won't get addressed, and the situation will keep continuing and continuing and continuing. If that makes sense, which I hope it does. I really, I honestly hope that makes sense to you. Now, there's some really good movies, but they're not highly promoted somewhere, and some aren't, or whatever, but there's some really good movies that you can watch that talk about all that stuff, and you can deal with that rather than watching your stupid violent movies that have a gun. But far as voting goes and all that, and the power to vote, you're just voting another corrupt person into office. There's just so many twisted people in there, and if you even got a real genuine person that was really going to do what they say and walk their talk or whatever, as we know, there's so much resistance against that they're not going to get very far. So it's a mess. So